has because he's gotten 2 extra ones, especially when you're going up against dots. And the way you know that, obviously, is scouting. And he made it a point in our talks to tell me that scouting is very important. And obviously, a lot of players know that it's very important. But if it's even more important when you're innovating, to know what your opponent's doing and to know how your strategy might be affected by that. So scouting definitely very important. You notice he sends his wolves to check for expansions almost constantly, at least a few times during the game. And he definitely sends his wolves in a few times to see what the Night Elf player is going. If he had seen Dual Lodge, he let me know that he wouldn't probably opt for this Shaman route because Dryads are actually pretty good counter to a lot of these Shamans that he's found. They do piercing damage, and they have an auto dispel, which gets rid of the Lightning Shield. And plus, they're immune to magic, so Lightning Shield doesn't work on them. So if he sees Dual Lodges and he's going to have to deal with Bears and Dryads, he says he opts for the standard kind of cookie cutter Spirit Walkers, Raiders, type thing with Kodos. Just like a normal Orc mix versus Dryads and Bears. So, but in this case, we're talking about Druids of the Talon, and he is opting for the Shamans. But again, scouting very, very important there. I hope I didn't miss any point when I was talking about. So basically, he's massing up to exactly 50 food with his Shamans, and then he's going to kind of sit on that for a little while until he can clear an expansion. A lot of players, and this has been true for at least the past 2 or 3 months, have been playing very, very defensively, except for a lot of these pro players. A lot of the kind of average, kind of better players on the ladder are playing very defensively, and this is a smart way to play because you don't have to worry about if you're always on the defensive, and it kind of gives you the advantage that you're able to counter a little bit better. So Orc player now just creeping out some stuff. Don't think that the Night Elf player has lost his Demon Hunter yet, but that does happen eventually, so we'll point that out when it comes. Trying to talk about a lot of stuff, but still kind of keeping the game. Still a little bit of downtime, players just creeping and things like that. But yeah, so we're talking back about playing defensively. It's definitely the safe way to go, and although to me it's a lot more boring to watch replays where people are just creeping on every map, trying to expand, it's a very viable strategy when you're unsure of your player's skills, is to play defensively. And almost every ladder match you haven't played against the other player before, so playing defensively is a good idea. Playing offensively gives the other player who might be playing defensively an opportunity to counter you with what you're doing. So definitely playing defensively, I don't know, I leave it to you guys, but I think it's rather boring to do, but that's why I'm not pro probably, so I can definitely see the benefits of it. You'll want to notice too, a good counter to Lightning Shield is going to be Scrolls of Healing. So both players are going to be trying to get to their Goblin Merchant and stock up some Scrolls of Healing, at least one on both heroes. And basically the Orc player is doing that just to heal up his units when he can, but he's up against Focus Fire. And without Spirit Link, healing scrolls are a little bit less effective to spread that damage out, but up against AE damage like Chain Wave and Lightning Shield, the Night Elf player definitely needs to counter those effects. Even if he wasn't going up against Lightning Shield, to counter Chain Wave, the big counter to that is Scrolls of Healing from the Goblin Merchant. So buy those, they're 250 gold each, and have one on both of your heroes. If you could do that every time, I mean every encounter, make sure you at least have one, ideally 2. That's definitely the good way to do it, because otherwise it's going to be really hard to counter the effects of Chain Wave, unless the Orc's kind of low on mana, which at this point he actually is. He doesn't have any Clarity Pots or anything like that. Which actually, at this point, I was wondering why he didn't decide to go ahead and push the Night Elf right at his 50 food mark. He still hasn't made any big advances on the Night Elf base, but they're both at 50 food now, and he did kill the Demon Hunter over there with a Purge and Speed Scroll Surround. Although the Demon Hunter at that point did have a Scroll of Town Portal and a Potion of Healing, which with a level 2 Demon Hunter definitely would have been viable to use that Scroll of Town Portal to get out of that surround. So anyway, yeah, he's low on mana. He's decided that, heck, I don't want to push right now because I'm not going to be able to Chain Wave effectively. So he's just deciding to creep and put up his expansion. And after his expansion is up is when he decides to break the 50 food mark, which is exactly how you want to go ahead and do that, so you can have enough resources to support a larger army when you're in the upkeep there. You have kind of double the income coming in. Although you are going to have some of it affected by upkeep, it's definitely a good way to counter the effects of upkeep is to have an expansion. This is actually called kind of the a little bit late of an expansion. This isn't a mid-game expansion. This is kind of towards the end of the game, where you see a lot of Orc games actually last the 15-minute mark, and this is like 12 minutes and 30 seconds just past here. So we got that going on. So he's deciding to put up an expansion, and this is basically just kind of an insurance clause. If he can keep this expansion up or force the Night Elf to try to take that out, he's going to be able to force a fight outside the Night Elf's base. And also, if he keeps it up, he's going to be able to easily fortify a larger army and beat him out with just mass of a lot more units when he can take out individual things. Basically, you're assuming that you're going to be winning the first fight here, so you can kind of over push them once you win the fight. There's going to be an encounter coming up here, and the Orc's going to scout him out here with these wolves, which he's sending to the opposite gold mines, again, to scout for those expansions, which he's doing constantly. Scouting, obviously, very, very important. He says once the expo gets up, or once it started anyway, he wants to start getting some raiders. I'll go over another counter after this battle here, but let's watch how effective Lightning Shield is on this. You'll notice that he's putting Lightning Shield on these Druids of Talon in the back lines. Most Night Elf players are going to keep their Druids of Talon really tight together and move them all in one group, which makes Chainwave very, very effective against them. So once the Night Elf player saw the Lightning Shield was on there, you see him trying to spread out his units. He's doing a very, very good job of spreading out his units, and he uses both his healing scrolls to counter the effects of Chainwave on his units. Unfortunately, the Tauren Chieftain did have a mana pot and was able to get another Shockwave off, which just decimated Demon Hunter and 3 archers. Very, very beautiful scene right there. I love to see that. Beastmaster's getting a little overconfident here. He did have a Lightning Shield on him, which was, I think, a bad idea, is to put a Lightning Shield on a melee hero, because that melee hero is going to be up against your army, and Lightning Shield actually has negative effects because it's kind of a double-edged sword. It does the same damage to your units, too. Beastmaster decides, heck, I don't have a Scroll Town Portal, no more health, all my units are in the red, I need to get out and save what I can. But running away from an Orc army with Raiders and Shamans is probably not going to happen for you, buddy. So he does almost get away, though, but this Raider is doing a good job of just kind of running up ahead of him, trying to stay in range until Ensnare refreshes, and the Beastmaster is going to go down here with a hit from the Farseer. And also this Druids of Talon is going to go down from a hit from the Farseer. So very cool move there. You see how effective Lightning Shield is going. We got both Night Elf heroes down now for this for the Night Elf player, and that was actually kind of one of the deciding battles here. We're at now 49 food to 35. It's still kind of even there, and he did save a lot of the Druids of the Talon, but at this point, Druids of the Talon are really weak now. You saw how effective this Lightning Shield and Shockwave was against the archers. It's really effective versus the Druids of the Talon, just because of their low hit points there. So we got the Wolf scouting out those other expansions again. It's something constantly this Orc player is doing. So he's definitely keeping an eye out for that. So yeah, now in this point in the game, the Orc player has definitely shown how he knows how to use Lightning Shield. And the Night Elf player needs to think of a new way to counter this. Night Elf player is going to start making Fairy Dragons, which is a very good option in theory. Now, the Fairy Dragons do piercing damage, which do extra damage to the Shamans if they were to do melee attacks, but the Night Elf players opting, and most Night Elf players that Jakar said that he fights against, opts for using the Mana Flare ability on his Fairy Dragons. Basically, you put the Fairy Dragons in the middle of the army and just sit them in Mana Flare mode. The problem is, in Mana Flare mode, they're still air units, and what units do Orcs have that counter air units really well? That's right, bats. So immediately you're going to start seeing more bats being produced. Actually, not right now he hasn't, but eventually he's going to go for supplying his army with bats. Actually, he probably should have done that a little bit earlier now. He says that he's kind of perfected this strategy over time. So he obviously knows the timing a lot better than me. But if I were to go up against a player and he knows my strategy, and I can kind of estimate some counters for that, which in my eyes, as a Night Elf player, would probably be the counter with Fairy Dragons, although I'm not a Night Elf player, so